Fashion is an inseparable part of culture. It is also one of the distinct and visible parts of culture. The clothes we wear are one of those important nonverbal communication signals, like facial expression, like gestures, like bodily contact, or spatial behavior. With our clothes, we tell a story of who we are, where we come from, and also who we want to be. It is impossible to wear clothes without transmitting all kinds of social signals. Now, each culture has its unique traditional clothing, for example, Japanese kimono or Indian sari. It is also culture that decides what, when, and how to wear certain clothes, including when to wear traditional clothes, since in many parts of the world right now, people don't really wear their traditional clothes on a daily basis anymore, or they wear them only for certain occasions like weddings or special national holidays. Culture also guides its members to interpret the messages communicated through clothes. Traditional clothing usually tells a story or a history of a culture. And it's fascinating to study the evolution of fashion in every culture because as you do that, you inevitably learn that the twists and turns in fashion correspond to the twists and turns in politics and economy and social and cultural change and interactions with other cultures too. So throughout the history of human civilization, cultures have always come into contact with each other. And one of the results of those interactions have been this borrowing from each other's cultures, including from each other's fashion. And we do that, we see that reflected in different fashions throughout the world, the borrowings and the adaptations from each other. Every culture also has subcultures, and often people who belong to subcultures also have their unique fashions. This is important to keep in mind, especially when we talk about cultures and think countries. So very few countries are homogeneous. Most countries are home to diverse groups of people, and diversity of the ways people dress reflect that. There are also regional differences and variations in the way people in different regions of the same country dress often correspond not only with these the people's histories and traditions, but also with things like even differences in climate and landscape in those regions, because fashion is not only a vehicle for self-expression and art, like wearable art, right? But it also serves very, very practical purposes in our basic needs. Globalization has certainly had a big impact on fashion worldwide. The emergence of multinational clothing companies have been slowly changing the pictures on the streets in many cities and towns across the globe. For example, H&M has over 3,000 stores in 53 countries, which means one can find the same outfit in London, UK, in Hungary, in Budapest, and in Lagos, Nigeria, right? But the crucial point is that even when people from different cultures wear the same clothes, the context in which they wear those clothes, as well as their perception of who the wearer is, vary from culture to culture. And I'm going to tell a little personal story to illustrate that. So back in 2003, I came to the United States as an international student, as an international undergraduate student. And one of the things that really jumped at me right away when I found myself at a typical college campus was how my fellow American students dressed. And we wore the same types of clothes. So this is kind of the H&M example, right? It wasn't that drastically different. But one of the things that is really common in Russia is that when you leave your private space of your home, you dress up. Or at least you dress in a way that in America is considered, wow, you're all dressed up. Do you have a job interview or are you going out? And in Russia, it's just like, okay, this is just how you dress when you leave your home to even just go grocery shopping. So there's that sense that you have to, once you leave your home and you're out there in public, you have to look perfect. You've got your makeup on, you've got your jewelry, everything. And of course, I arrived to a college campus and I see a bunch of people walking around in sweatpants and, like plain jeans and t-shirts. And of course, that's a little bit of a culture shock for me because I'm not used to seeing that. So it's not so much of differences in clothing per se, because I own the same kind of t-shirt or the same pair of jeans, but I would not wear it out in the public. So now, of course, having spent so many years, I get it, I understand. And I even find it really cool because it takes a lot of pressure off, I think, for looking perfect. But back then, back in 2003, I remember that coming down to the dining center to have breakfast and seeing a bunch of students in their pajamas. Like basically I woke up and I just came to the dining center wearing my pajama. That was a little bit shocking, but I think this example illustrates really well that you may even wear the same kind of clothes as a result of globalization and the availability of the same types of fashions worldwide, but culture still determines where you wear those clothes and what are the contexts and what are the settings. And those are the kinds of things that differ depending on where you come from and what are your cultural histories and backgrounds and knowledge.